Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it will be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! First story. Karen says you will respect me, then gets what she deserves. This happened some years ago in my first year at college. I was just returning to college after a winter break. I was traveling from the airport at night to my campus on the other side of the city. So I needed to change a couple subway lines and buses. What I had with me were a big suitcase, my backpack and a notebook carrying case. I got off the subway and started looking for the elevators so I don't have to use the escalators with all my stuff and cause any problems. I found the elevator and it just closed its doors and a couple people were already in line waiting. I got in line to wait and a Karen arrived and started pushing people aside and tried to cut to the front. As Karen did not look nearly older than 40, was trying to get past me. I turned to her and said, "Ma'am, where do you think you're going? You need to get in line to use the elevator as all these people have been waiting to use it just like you." She opens her eyes wide and makes a disgusted face to me and says, "Don't you people read?" Pointing to a sign that reads, "Please give priority to the elderly and disabled," or something very close to that. I am normally a very nice and polite guy, but I was exhausted and could not deal with her. So I said, "Oh, sorry, which are you? The elderly or disabled?" And Karen is triggered. She started shaking with rage and shouted, "You're just a rude, ignorant brat. I'm older than you. You will treat me with respect." I smiled and said, "You are older than me, but you are not elderly. Plus you talk about respect, but you pushed aside a mother with a stroller and a man in a wheelchair. She did. Where is your respect for all of these people you cut in front of?" She held out her arms in her fur coat, enough for being a jerk of a person, and tried hitting me with a bag of hers. I stepped out of her way and she actually hit another lady. At that point, other people started vocally supporting me, and apparently someone called a security guard, so the guard came out of nowhere and people started pointing at Karen, so he asked Karen to follow him. And Karen turned the craziness to 11, and she started cursing everybody, starting with the guard and me. The guard did not lose any time and called backup as he tried to hold her because she tried to run away in heels. It was actually hilarious. More guards arrived and dragged her since the other lady had her lips split open and wanted to press charges. I was asked to follow them as well. We took some other elevator up. The police are called and they talked with everyone, and I told them what happened. And the other lady told him what happened as well. In the end, Karen was taken to the police station with the other lady to press charges. Just why are you making it hard on us and for yourself? I have no idea. If only I knew what goes around in Karen's mind. But yeah. Next story. "I don't work here. I'm here for my lunch. Let go of me or I'm calling the police." Okay, so 2 years ago I worked at my local mall, Boundland. Basically the British version of the dollar store. It was 3 days before Christmas, and if you've ever worked retail, you know what a nightmare that is. At the mall there is this cute little cafe which I sometimes like to get my lunch at. It's a bit on the pricey side, so it's a rare treat for myself. I was dressed in my shop's uniform, which was black dress trousers, a black polo, black leather dress shoes, and a name tag with hair tied up if long. It very closely resembles a cafe's uniform, except for the fact my name tag clearly says Poundland on it, and they were shirts, not polos. The times I've been there for lunch before, I have sometimes been mistaken for staff, but people are generally very good about it when I explain. But this day, that was not the case. On this day, the cafe was of course quite busy. The Christmas rush is as eager to eat as I am. I get a table and sit down waiting for my order when I feel a woman tapping my shoulder quite roughly. I actually ended up with a bruise from this, as I bruise easily.
Do you really think you should be taking up a table when people are waiting to be served?
I explained to her that I'm on my lunch break. I do not actually work here, but in a shop across the mall. And of course, she does not believe me and insisted I'm lying. I point to my name tag and then ask her to leave me alone. This seems to be the wrong thing to do. She then drags me out of my seat by my arm. Now I'm a tiny girl. I'm 5'2" if I'm lucky. So moving was easy for her and she begins to scream for a manager. All of that while dragging me from my seat. By now everyone is staring at us. And I tell her, I do not work here. I'm here for my lunch. Let go of me or I'm calling the police. At this time, the manager runs over and shouts at her to let go of me. She begins to scream about how the servers here are lazy and how I'm taking up a table that should go to a customer. And he just looks at me, then tells her that I am a customer and do not work for his cafe. In the end, mall security threw her out, and I was asked if I wanted to press charges, and I definitely said yes. I got a free lunch that day from the cafe. So thanks for the lunch crazy woman who cannot read a name tag. Next story. Parking company upset my mom. You upset my mom, you upset me. Things you need to know. This happened around 20 years ago. The internet was a new and wondrous thing and only had by very rich people and companies. Parking on private land was essentially unregulated and cowboy companies were clamping and or fining people for parking with absolutely no saving throw for any violation. Parking companies were universally loathed. Because the parking companies are lows, they have learned not to give out their address. They all hide behind company numbers and post office boxes. They do not give out their phone number. They really do not want angry people walking in to see the manager. All correspondence is to a P.O. Box number. The only way to contact them is by the P.O. Box number. Whether it's to send them a check for a penalty or to complain about the penalty, it all has to go via the P.O. Box number. We will call Post Office Regional Manager Posty. What happened? Okay, mom went to the cinema and parked, as she's entitled to in a disabled space. When she got out, she had a ticket for parking in a disabled bay. Mom maintains the badge was on display. It basically lived on her dashboard, but there was no photo evidence taken back then. It was simply mom's word against the jerks. Mom wrote to the parking company, the jerks from now on, and explained that she had a disabled permit and was allowed to park where she did. The jerks wrote back and said the fine was now doubled, and unless she paid in 7 days, she would be taken to court. Mom, now distraught, called me in tears. This was the first I knew of her predicament. I shot round to comfort her and collected the papers she had. The original fine ticket and the reply to mom's letter and her blue badge, the disabled parking permit. I also got to sign a letter of authority so I could act on her behalf. I told mom not to worry about it and that I will deal with it. I work for a large insurance company and can use the internet terminal in the library. We are, as I said above, at that stage of the internet where it is a rare thing, and finding out the information I did would have taken several weeks, if not months. There are not many sites to surf at this time, but one that is Companies House, where you can get the information that companies must disclose to be lawful. 10 minutes later, I have the names and addresses of the 2 company directors and the registered address of Jerks Ltd. Their premises, which could have been anywhere in the UK, never mind anywhere in my city, Leeds, happened to be between where I worked and where I lived, and I passed it twice a day. I could not remember where that address was, but I would look out for it on my way home. And on my way home, I realized that address was in fact a building site. At a guess, everything from 190 to 230 had been removed to build blocks of student housing. Temporarily stumped, I went home to ponder what to do next. My wife said, "Well, how do they get their post if they are not there?" And I realized that they must have told the post office they have moved and have not needed to change the P.O. box number they are using. The next day, I'm back at the internet machine in the library where I'm doing a spot of research on the post office and P.O. box numbers. I call the post office and ask to speak to the most senior person available. And Posty answers. "How can I help you, sir?" "Well, I've got a problem with Jerk's company. They are threatening my mother and hiding behind the P.O. box number, which I believe to be an offense. I know the company is registered at X address, and as you may know, this kind of address is a large building site. Can I call you back, sir?" "Sure." And about an hour later, Posty calls. "Hello, sir. I've inquired and you are correct. Even if we needed proof of the threats, they have broken several post office rules and we're only still getting their post as they have only moved 50 yards from where they were and have the same postman, who did not know they were supposed to notify a change of address to the chiefs and not just tell the local delivery guy. So I ask him, so what happens now? I'll block all their mail at the sorting office and will only release it when I'm satisfied you have been contacted. But how do I contact them? Bring a letter to the sorting office before 8 tonight. Ask for Posty, and I'll make sure it is delivered tomorrow." I smile at that. So I wrote a letter that went something like this. "Dear Jerks, I act with full authority of my mom. On X date at X place, your company representative placed a penalty notice on her car for parking in a marked disabled bay. She admits this, but maintains she was displaying her blue badge. I attached a copy of the badge. In an effort to contact you, I contacted company's house and thereby discovered that you were not at the registered address you were supposed to be at. This is an offense, and I have reported this to company's house with a view to having the company and its director struck off. I subsequently contacted the post office, and they also take a dim view of moving without telling them. As such, they have suspended your mail until you contact them with your address. I actually care not what your address is, but I will tell the post office I'm happy as soon as I hear from my mother that she's happy." And with that, I ended the letter. I took this round to Posty, who was wearing the grin of someone not entirely unhappy to be involved in shafting a parking company. He said they get around 500 letters a day usually, but tomorrow just this one, as he took my letter from me. I went home, poured myself a whiskey, then I called my mom and said that I was sure it would all be okay, and that she must call me if she heard from the Jerks company. That call came just after 1 p.m. the following day. Mom said a lovely man had turned up on her doorstep with a letter saying that the matter was dropped, apologizing for any inconvenience and carrying a massive bouquet of flowers. And she said he was especially keen for her to call me. The post office then called 20 minutes later, and though tempted otherwise, I said I was happy, and as far as I was concerned, they could have their mail again. Next story. I had the cops called on me for doing my job. Another story reminded me of this, and I can't believe I haven't posted it. This happened about 2 to 3 years ago. So it was a typical Sunday at work. Not too busy, I worked in a postal outlet, so Sundays were usually slow as most didn't know we were open. A gentleman came in before noon and had told me that he sent a money transfer the day before, but it was no longer needed, so he wanted the money refunded. I said absolutely, I can do that for you, and asked for his reference number. When you send a money transfer, you receive a reference number, and that is how the money is picked up on the other end or refused in cases like these. I don't have it, it's at home. I'm sorry, sir. I cannot look up your transaction any other way. I need your reference number. He fought with me for a bit, stating that he didn't have enough gas to get home and that he needed the money. I told him I cannot do anything for you until you brought me the reference number associated with this transaction. He finally left, and I thought it would be over. Oh no, it was not over yet. He comes strolling back in a few hours later, and this time with his reference number. I go through the transaction, and it won't go through. Checking his ID, I see it's expired. I know this is the reason. I also know he won't believe me. I told him I would call the helpline to figure out the problem. They tell me what I suspected, and I relay the message to him. He is not pleased. And again, a fight. He cannot afford to go renew his license as has no other form of ID. I hold in my "not my problem" comment and tell him that he needs to bring back a valid piece of ID, and only then I can give him his money. He leaves again in a huff. It's 4 p.m. and we close at 5. The end is near. Who comes walking back in? You guessed it. This guy and his girlfriend. It is on now. I just talked to the helpline. I'm picking it up using her ID. No, you're not. The transaction is in your name. I am not using her ID. The system probably wouldn't let me anyways. And I know they would never let this happen. I actually called when they left just to make sure. The customer service agent said they would never allow it. I was on the phone for 2 hours. I am using her ID. I called the helpline. As I was on the phone, his girlfriend asks me why he can send money without his ID, but he has to have it to receive it. Well, receiving money is a whole lot different than sending it. They don't care who is sending it as much as who is picking it up. I smile. I have tried explaining this to him a few times by now, but I start to explain and he cuts me off. Don't freaking smile at me. Give me my freaking money. I put the phone down and told him kindly to leave the store. You do not talk to me that way and expect my help. He refuses and another staff member comes by to ask, what is the issue? He is yelling that I am withholding his money. And then he tells me he is going to call the cops and then asks for my phone. I say nope. There is a phone at the front you can use. By the time he walks away, it's 5 p.m. I shut my system down and headed to the back to finish. As I'm finishing up, a police officer walks into the back room. He's well known to us, the officer says. I explained the situation and he went and escorted them out. You're well known to the police and you think they are going to help you in a situation like this? Ridiculous. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.